The Pork Checkoff's new Safe Pig Handling tool was designed to reinforce fundamental safety concepts while depicting real-life specific situations encountered in daily pork production. This resource was designed to be used on a one-on-one meetings, small group, or self-study training sessions. Bill Winkelman, the Vice President of Producer and Industry Relations for the National Pork Board, has a responsibility for working with pork producers to help obtain valuable in their investment. Winkelman serves as the liaison between members of the National Pork Board, staff, as well as states, and provides states with information on what the Pork Checkoff is doing on their behalf. He then communicates their input back to various departments at the National Pork Board. He and his staff also work directly with producers to answer questions and provide information, including safe pig handling. Prior to rejoining the National Pork Board in July of about 3 years ago, Winkelman was the Director of Analysis and Development for Murphy Brown Western Operations. His first position with the National Pork Board was in 2001 as their Chief Financial Officer. Winkelman and his wife Barb have been married for 25 years, and he has 3 children, Thomas, Joseph, and Paige. Let's welcome Bill and his presentation with Safe Pig Handling.
Thank you, Bryn, for doing that with a straight face and not taking any shots at your boss. So good morning to everyone, and thank you for being here, and welcome to World Pork Expo. Welcome to the Pork Academy first session that we have for you today on safe pig handling. This is a new resource that we have just completed and are distributing and talking about for the first time here at World Pork Expo. We really want to say a special thank you. I have it noted here on the first slide to Dr. Sarah Probst-Miller and Ag Create, who helped us create this resource, particularly on the interactive components that you'll see both within the presentation and the brief demonstration that I'll give you of the resource. And also want to point out that Jim Lummis, who's our Director of Producer Education and really the project lead for this particular project, is here as well. So he'll be able to answer any questions and also back me up with some of the statements that I make about the resource. About 2 years ago, we got together with producers from across the country at what we called an Employee Safety Summit. And we got together with them. We asked them, what do you most need in terms of helping ensure your employees' safety on the farm? And they talked to us we talked about a lot of different ideas, but the top 2 project ideas they gave us, first of all, was help us benchmark ourselves against others in the industry so that we can see where we have our biggest challenge, how we compare, and if we have that kind of benchmarking information and we're all experiencing the same type of issues and problems, what resources can our checkoff dollars go towards helping us address some of those issues where we have the most common problems with injuries on the farm. So we did that a year ago, and and we have a safety benchmarking database that 26 producers, I believe, today, and probably nearly 2 million sows are represented within this database that producers can go on and compare. They submit their safety information for a year, their work loss days, their cost of injuries, and they can see where those injuries are occurring, how they compare with others in the industry, and also provide us in aggregate information about where those problem spots are. The second thing they asked us to do was we really need something with so many of our employees, particularly new employees coming for the first time to our operations without any background in agriculture or animal handling. We really need a resource for our onboarding and our ongoing safety programs that really demonstrates to them the proper animal handling techniques. And so that's the second piece, and that's what we're talking about today. The heavy emphasis on it being interactive so that employees could go through it and actually interact with it and stop it along the way, back up. If they're new terms, have a glossary where they can check to see if they really understand what that means, and also make sure that it's available in both English and Spanish. And that's really what we're here to talk with you today, is this resource. And I'm going to walk you through just a few PowerPoint slides that explain how we've built it, how it's designed. and then give you a brief demonstration on the product itself. And at the end of the session, you'll have the opportunity to actually take these resources home with you on a flash drive. But we'd also appreciate that when you do that, if you would provide us some information so that we can follow up with you, get your feedback on how well it's worked for you in your operation, because we'll also be interested in developing more resources like this in this type of, using this type of method, if producers find it useful in their ongoing training and development programs. So, obviously, safety is a huge issue on the farm. I learned that a lot from my days working with Murphy Brown. When you have a lot of employees and you have day-to-day interaction with, from small to large animals, the opportunity, some of the most frequent opportunities and some of the largest cost incidents of injury that we have on the farms are animal-human interaction. That's where the big injuries most often occur. That's where the knee injuries happen. That's where the back strains. That's where bones get broken, is in the handling of animals. And so obviously animal handling was a really good place for us to start. Obviously there's a lot of other areas that you can get hurt in the barn, but working with the animal is probably one of the largest. And so as we developed this, and we talked with producers about what did they want, we knew we needed to be, appeal to a variety of learner backgrounds, and that means we have folks from many different levels of education and background, different levels of farm experience, as I've mentioned before, and obviously these days being able to offer it in both English and Spanish is really critical for many of our operations around the country. So we want to make sure that the messages are understood, that they're delivered at a level that the vast majority of our employees, from the lowest level all the way up to the top, could really appreciate and understand the messages that we're trying to deliver. So the approach was really to try to make it highly visual and task-oriented lessons. So we really wanted to make it practical. Again, listening to producers. Make sure that you accommodate not only that you can accommodate the visual learner. So not everybody learns from reading it or going through a PowerPoint. Oftentimes the best learning occurs for some folks, particularly if they're challenged by language, to be able to actually see it demonstrated on the screen. And we want to make sure that it's intuitive, engaging. And so we all know that we've all probably been at training sessions where it's death by PowerPoint. You may even find today's presentation death by PowerPoint. But it's a great way for us to at least get through and talk about the different components of this particular resource before we actually take a look at it. And obviously we want it to reflect the realities of the barn. So one of the things that we've really worked at here is to really give real world experiences with what folks who work with this resource will see. So it's not all perfectly clean buildings. So you'll see buildings happening in the real sense. You'll see real workers working in the barns. You'll see real interviews with folks, farm managers and barn workers, explaining what they're doing in the various examples and vignettes that we have in these various chapters. So the other thing is that we had to be very conscious of the level of technology that producers also have today. And we know that we have operations who have high-speed internet on their farms and they're very technology savvy, but we also know that there are still those who have dial-up or maybe nothing at all, or may not even have a computer on the farm. And so the other thing that we wanted to make sure that we built into this resource was that no matter what level of technology you have, this is a resource that could be delivered at the farm level. So what we've done in this first effort is we've developed the first six chapters of what we think could be an ongoing expanded offering as it relates to safety on the farm. And the final outputs of these lessons, of these 6 lessons, are basically delivered in 3 different ways. So one, we have a multimedia lesson, which is on this flash drive is a DVD quality type of resource that has video overlay that is showing video at the same time that it's also demonstrating the various points that you should be taking away from that particular video as you go through. It's set up by chapters. It starts and it stops so that if you're doing it in an interactive way with an employee, it'll be showing a very specific concept. But if you then stop it at that point and have some additional piece that you want to deliver as a farm manager or as a safety manager for the farm, you can stop it and add your own specific steps, your own additional SOPs that you might do on your farm that further augment the general concept that we're trying to display in the lesson. But if you don't have that ability to do the multimedia, then we also have the ability, if you have a computer on the farm, to run it as a PowerPoint presentation. And when you run it as a PowerPoint presentation, it's the same concepts on a PowerPoint with speaker notes that will help the farm manager or the safety manager guide folks through each of the same lessons that's being delivered in the multimedia component. And then even if you don't have the computer, the third version is a PDF, or basically a printable version of the resource that, again, reinforce all the same tasks, requires more one-on-one between the trainer and the employee in explaining it, but delivers, again, all the same key components of the training. And again, all of it available in English and Spanish. So the first 6 chapters that we are releasing this week at World Pork Expo, the first one being Pig Behavior in You. It's about a 26-minute video that basically is demonstrating all the components that we have currently in our TQA, Transport Quality Assurance program, in terms of all the concepts that we talk about in terms of flight zone, the point of balance, all the different things that we deliver in TQA in a video form. So it really reinforces and is really just a video review of all the concepts of TQA. The second one is about training and handling boars. The third, moving pregnant sows and gilts to farrowing, weaning sows, weaning pigs, and the movement of market hogs. So you can see each of these chapters are all related to the movement of the animals throughout the barn in the various stages of production, and the differences in the techniques and equipment that you may need to be able to perform each one of those operations. As I mentioned before, we see this as a first phase of what we want to try to do. We've identified some additional lessons that we hope to do in the future, including heat checking in pens, heat checking in stalls, injecting sows, processing, identification and treatment of weaned to market hogs. And again, these are other critical areas where you have the animal-human interaction, where we know from data that safety challenges can occur. And so once we have these first 6 chapters out, our intent is to get feedback from you as producers. Tell us what works, tell us what you like, and with that, and if people are really using it and it's widely adopted, then we'll move on to these additional chapters in terms of making additional investment to build this resource out even further. So the multimedia lesson, the nice thing about that, or if you have an onboarding program in your farm, you could set an employee down in the room with this particular set of videos, and they could really self-pace themselves through this particular training. They can play the lesson over and over. They can reinforce what they're trying to learn. There's resources at the bottom in terms of a glossary if they don't necessarily understand all the components that are being talked about. And it really goes chapter by chapter. So each one of these chapters are approximately 15 to 20 minutes long. So they're not overwhelming, and you can take them in a piece at a time. So they can truly self-pace. They can repeat a chapter. It really allows them to move at their own pace and comfort. In terms of, as I mentioned, there's a glossary for a lot of terms because, again, a lot of our employees don't know a lot of our terminology. So if they get to a point where they don't understand a particular word or term, they can actually go to a glossary that will help them, help them with that particular definition. And again, that's in English and Spanish. And a resources component, which is, again, reference materials like the TQA manual and other resources that we've developed through Pork Board checkoff resources that talk specifically in these particular areas. I'm going to skip over this example that I have because I actually have the opportunity with the time we have today to be able to show you a real-time example within the resource itself. But and again, I'll refer back to those as we get into the resource. So the thing that I really like about the step is you can obviously see at the top of this that as you're going through each one of the particular chapters, as they're divided up into individual pieces, you can actually go through that particular set of the chapter. You pass a quiz, you take a quiz at the end. It tells you if it's correct or incorrect. If you've achieved at least 70% on that particular quiz, you can then get the check mark at the top and move on. So as an owner or a manager for a particular operation, the ability to actually go back and see how the employee did after they've went through the results of through the use of the quizzes is a really great way to document their understanding and what they've taken away from this particular opportunity. So then that was about the multimedia. Again, the PowerPoint, just to re-emphasize again, it's the PowerPoint type of delivery. So each of the information, all the information that's in the multimedia is also in the PowerPoint, along with notes for the trainer to use that reinforces the messages that we're trying to deliver. Because now you don't have the audio and the video moving live to support what you're doing. And again, it's the concept here is to be able to present it live on the farm when you don't have that opportunity to use a multimedia format. So again, always pictures, always bullet points, and always notes for the speaker. Again, available in English and Spanish. And again, the ability that you know where you're at as you're moving through the PowerPoint in terms of the different chapters within the chapter, the different points within the chapter that eventually takes you to the ability to walk that employee through a quiz or a test at the end of the training. This is just an example here of what it looks like in Spanish as a PowerPoint slide, and again with the speaker notes at the bottom also done in Spanish. So again, we've worked with a translator who has a lot of Inborn experience, a native Spanish speaker who has worked in barns and has been able to really adapt this language to the appropriate education and background level that most of our Spanish barn workers come from. So then the third component, as I mentioned before, if you don't have the PowerPoint, then the Inborn handout. And what does that look like? It's a double-sided document. The front side, the ability to sit down with the employee and again review the key lessons and the key points of that particular chapter. But then the interesting part is on the, and this is what this looks like if you were to print it off. So again, you would have this, you could print this off and laminate it or a hard, or a reusable type of form where you could walk them through the different components of that particular chapter. And then the ability to actually use with them, walk them through the individual learning points that you hope to have them take away from that chapter. And as they demonstrate their knowledge and their ability, you basically can check that off in that particular area. And then at the end, with the need for documentation becoming more and more an important piece of what we do every day, and people wanting to say, how do I know you did that? Well, we signed off on it. The ability for both the employee and the manager to sign off that they not only went through the training, but they also demonstrated the various skills or techniques that were included in that particular chapter. So, at the end of the day, what we think we've tried to do for producers is really to create a creative and interactive tool to help them help their employees understand how to safely work with pigs. We tried to adapt it to a wide range of educational levels, employee experience, and different levels of language proficiency, with a variety of different outputs available for them to be able to use the resource irregardless of the technological capabilities that they have on their farm. And we believe that at the end of the day, this product will improve the health, safety, and well-being of not only the people, but the pigs on the farm. One of the things that we know clearly is that if you're doing the right thing to keep the employee safe, you're also doing the right thing for the pig. Okay, and so what I really like about the videos that we'll see is that employees will actually see real demonstrations of what is proper pig handling, what it means to add pressure or to release pressure, What's the appropriate use of a sort board? What's the appropriate use of a shaker paddle? So it's a real reinforcement of what proper pig handling really looks like in the barn. And so one more thing. So again, what we've done is this is available on a thumb drive that we have available for you at the end of the session here. That has all of the different resources, and I'll give you an example and show you how that looks. So it has the PowerPoint, it has the multimedia version, and it has the handouts and checklists all included within the resource. It also, for some of our production companies who actually have learning management systems where they walk employees through a whole series of different trainings and they document that they've been through PQA and various safety and other learning opportunities. The resource and results of the employee taking this test, these quizzes, can also be tied to their learning management systems as well.